Good morning, Jam families and Jam kids and Jam parents. This is Perry Brake. I'm also called the Jam Boss by the kids at class, and you can call me that too if you want to. This is the weekly recap for October 26th and 27th, 2022. First, let me show you the calendar, and this is the Jam calendar that you can print off from the website on www.tellicoplainsjam.com, and it shows the schedule for both Tellico Plains and Madisonville. And where I've got the pink scratched off, those are the classes that we've already had. And we can tell that we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 classes. And that only leaves 4 more classes till the end of the year. Important to know, there is no jam next week. That's the first week of November. That's the week that has Halloween is on Monday. There's no jam classes at all on that week. The time that we'll come back to jam is after the day that we vote. We vote on November the 8th, and you can see here that jam starts back on November the 9th and 10th. So keep these schedules handy, print them out, put them on your refrigerator or your lunch boxes or wherever. But be sure that nobody's going to be there to open the door for jam next week. Some good news, the jam kids played at the Cherahela Festival last weekend, and they did a really, really good job. I was very surprised and pleasantly surprised when we saw that my young banjo player named Andy, he was playing his banjo and he was doing a really good job. He was keeping good tempo, but he realized, he heard with his ears, and kids know that ears are very important. He heard that he was out of tune. He had his tuner with him on the instrument, just like everybody should have. And he tried to tune during the song. He kind of like turned away from the microphone so nobody would hear him. And he was having trouble. And so Andy just quietly backed away from the front of the stage and slipped off. He chose to do that on his own. That was very commendable, Andy. I appreciate you doing that. Another option you could have had is you could have just simply muted the strings with your left hand, and you could have just kept strumming the tempo. And nobody in the audience would have recognized that you were doing just tempo strumming. That's okay to do. Speaking of tempo strumming, let me show you something else that we did. Don't go away. I'll be right back. You might have seen me walk across the room to the back side. The kids in jam this week, we learned all about this instrument called a metronome. This is the tool that when the kids are practicing, it gives them a tempo, which means the speed of their strumming that they can practice with. And this is how it sounds. And this is just one of many, many, many types of metronomes. And the student can set the speed that they want the metronome to tick as it goes back and forth. We talk about the importance of playing with the metronome. They must do this at least once a week. It doesn't have to be a metronome that looks like this. This is traditional metronome that a lot of piano players use. However, most all of the parents have phones, and you can download phone apps for free that have metronomes, both for Android and Apple phones. Also, and I don't have one on my desk, I should have had it, but the little snark tuners that most of the kids have, they have built-in metronomes also. They don't tick-tock. They have a little heart that goes boom, 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 into a tempo. And as long as the children are watching that heartbeat, boom, boom. They can try to mimic the tempo. Otherwise, a metronome that has a tick-tock works really good. And we talked about if the musician wants to learn how to play fast, some people like to play fast. Fast doesn't particularly sound really good to me unless it's playing like some fast bluegrass type country music. But they need to find a tempo such as about 80 beats per minute to start with. And once they're proficient at playing at 80 beats a minute, which is a little bit more than 1 beat per second. And then the secret to becoming a fast player is to practice going even slower. So they would start out at 80 beats per minute. Once they're pretty good at that, then they could lower that beat to 75 beats per minute. And once they're really good at playing at 80 and 75 and they can keep the tempo on their own, even when the metronome is turned off, then they go even lower than that because it's much more difficult to play at a slower speed than it is a higher speed. And once they can play at slow speeds consistently and staying within tempo, playing fast comes automatic. But notice my shirt's all crooked and my hair looks like a mess. That's okay. It's Saturday morning. Let's see. We also added a new chord for everybody. We added the chord A. First letter of the musical alphabet, A. And for the guitar players, and for the ukulele players, and for the banjo players, and for the mandolin players, once they know how to play both their G, C, and D chords, now they can play an A chord, and that gives them 2 different keys that they can play in. When they're playing in the key of G, they can be playing the G, C, and D chords. That's the 1, 4, and 5 chords, starting with G as your number 1. And then if they play in the key of D, D is their number 1 chord. G is the 4 chord. They already know how to do D and G. And then they add chord A as the 5 chord for key of D. And to review how these numbers work, whatever chord you select, for example, G would be your 1 chord. So in the blue book, whenever they see a number 1 and they're playing in the key of G, G is played whenever there's a number 1. To figure out what the number 4 chord is, they just simply count the musical alphabet, starting with 1 being G, and go like G, A, B, C. C is 4, so whenever there's a 4 chord, they play C. And then if they see a 5 chord, what follows C is D. It's just the musical alphabet in order. G, A, B, C, 4, C, D is 5. It just follows the alphabet. So if you're playing in the key of D, D is 1. Count the alphabet. D, E, F, G is 4. And after G comes A. D, E, F, G, A. So D, G, and A. That's how the musical numbers work. And that's going to be really, really good for the kids to understand how the numbers work. Ukuleles. I want the ukulele players, they've got to use this sheet that they were given. I want them to use these fingers and these frets and these chords. Their fingers are color-coded, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I told the ukulele players, we're not even going to play with pinky fingers. We're going to play only fingers 1, 2, and 3. So don't even worry about that one. And wherever there's a red finger, that's where you want your index finger to be, finger number 1. Wherever there's a number 2, that's where the middle finger goes. And then number 3 is the green circles. This is the new one we did here this week. Chord number or name A. It's only 2 fingers. So ukulele players, use this page. Also, ukulele players, I need you to always use the felt pick. So I'll put it up here closer. You can see it's It's fatter than a regular pick. Here's my ukulele pick versus a plastic guitar pick. See, it's much thicker. I do not want any ukulele players playing with a plastic guitar pick. We've given them the felt picks. If they lose them, we can give them another one. But they can use either the felt pick or they can use their fingers. If they're using their fingers to strum down with the thumb, down and up with the finger, down with the thumb, up with the finger, down, up. But do not use the plastic picks for ukuleles. The reason is, actually there's two reasons. Number one, it'll break the strings because the ukulele strings are usually made out of plastic or a plastic type of material. And the second reason is it'll be too loud. It'll be louder than all the other ukuleles in the class, and that'll be the only one heard. And we do not want any one instrument to be heard louder than other instruments. So felt picks only, or fingers for ukuleles. And one young player told me the other day that it was hurting their fingers. Well, unless you have a cut or a bug bite on your fingers, it's not going to be hurting you, because these ukuleles are, the strings are not hard and wired like they are on the guitars and mandolins and banjos. That's one of the reasons that ukuleles are preferred to play for the first instrument that they learn on. So that's about all we did last week. Well, we did talk about discipline, and we talked about the honeymoon's over, and now we're getting down to work. But we're going to have fun while we do it, because we'll be learning songs faster, and hopefully we'll be introducing a new song every week. Looking at our schedule in here, you can see that we've got scheduled on the last day of jam, which we've only got 4 more classes. I don't know the extent of the recital that we'll do yet. Seeing how there are so many kids in our jam classes, our progress has been a little bit slower, because there have been some distractions. For the first few weeks, there was discipline distractions, and that took away from instruction time. Also, along with so many kids in the class, that means there's going to be more questions in the class. And when there's more questions in the class, the instructors has to take time away from instructing. So our progress has been slower. So we may have a concert recital, but it's going to probably be abbreviated. And we'll probably have the advanced students do something and the beginners do something. And maybe we'll just have each individual class do something on their own. And I'm sure all the parents are going to be very pleased with that. Also, myself and Miss Jennifer, she's a ukulele teacher in Madisonville, we've been soliciting local businesses for support, funding. And we've had some pretty good success for that. Some people who are parents and grandparents of the jam kids, they've had their businesses donate some money, and we appreciate that. We're going to continue to grow. We plan to be here next year, and we're still planning on helping the kids in Monroe County. So remember, no jam next week. Come back the week of the elections, which is the week after the Halloween week. So, bye.